Well, welcome to what is a very chilly February morning down here in Cardiff Bay. And behind me is what will be Butetown Station when it is finished. It's well underway, a lot of work going on. It doesn't seem to be at the moment, but they are getting on very much for building it. I came past it earlier on in the train, and this is what you can see from the train. Obviously filming through the fence, but you can see some steps and ramp up to platform there. Again, look, the platform was finished there, posts up for signage and what have you. So I know that a number of people like coming down to these station openings. So I thought I'd do a little bit about the history of the line and why this station is here. More to the point, what you can see around here when you come, because it may just look like it's a load of flats, but actually quite a lot of history just in this small part of Cardiff. So how did Butetown Station come about? Well, the original plan was they were going to extend the branch down to a station right down here in the heart of the bay called the Flourish, and it would be roughly opposite where I'm standing here. There's some works going on there at the moment. Statue of Gandhi there, by the way. Works going on at the moment to fix the building up behind it, which is why I've got the wired microphone on. But it was called the Flourish because of, well, these fountains behind me are called the Flourish. And it would have served the Roald Dahl Place and the Millennium Centre, and have been more down further into Cardiff Bay. But the Welsh Government and Transport for Wales consulted with the local population and the residents who actually live down here and said, well, what do you want? They went, well, we don't want Cardiff Bay Station moved. We're quite happy with it as it is. And the one that you've got planned, which is a bit further up at Loudon Square, can we move that up a bit? And that's why Butetown Station is where it is and where it's at, and why Cardiff Bay Station isn't moving and is staying, and the Flourish isn't happening. So let's start with the railway itself. Up on the embankment here, running down from Queen Street to Cardiff Bay. This is actually the oldest railway in Cardiff. If you look at this map here, lovely old map showing the Dock Feeder Canal and the Glamorganshire Canal, Taff itself, and one railway, the Taff Vale Railway. It built it in 1814, ran from Navigation House, now known as Abercynon, down to Cardiff, with a station which in those days was called Cardiff, Taff Vale, later became Cardiff Queen Street, and continued down into the bay to a station called Cardiff Docks. That latterly became Bute Road, then Cardiff Bay. And there's never been a station here before called Butetown. All this is brand new. There were a lot of proposals to build different transport methods down this road. Let me explain. In the 60s, the docks fell into disuse and Bute West Dock closed in 1964. Now that's why I can look at this image here and say it's dated sometime between 1946 and 1964. Why? Well, the dock's still open, so that's 64. And this little building here is Butetown Slipper Baths, which I've done a video on, and they opened in 46. So you can see there's a lot of docks around here, and when they closed, a lot need redeveloping. Enter Cardiff Bay Development Corporation, who did a huge amount of work to redevelop around here. Believe it or not, what we're looking at here is what was East Bute Dock. All the way down is Steel Carriageway, and in the background here you can see the Wales Millennium Centre. They took certain buildings and they renovated them, and that included this, for example, the Novotel Hotel, which used to be a London North Western Railway goods shed. I'll do a video about that one day. But there were some problems. You see, this embankment from this point here right down to Cardiff Bay acts as kind of like a barrier between the old Butetown and the new development. There is only one way through. This pedestrian walkway today used to be a road, and that is it. And they seriously considered pulling this beautiful old Victorian embankment and wall down. So the idea was they take the embankment down, bring it all down to street level, and they would run something down here. Now, this is where the obligatory crazy ideas came in. Yes, a monorail was suggested and quickly rejected. A cable car, more recently actually, was suggested, that would go from the back of Cardiff Station down into Cardiff Bay and then over to Penarth. But again, cost, practicality. Okay, it might work down in London to get from the XL over to the O2, but a cable car over Cardiff Bay to Penarth, that might be a little bit more choppy. And then the crazy suggestions really did happen. Now, I know a lot of you will think I'm making this up, but I do clearly remember reading this in one of the railway magazines, that the suggestion was made that they took pacers, put side plates on them, and ran them at street level. I'll say that again, because some of you are going to be going, what? Or no, or no way. But clearly it was in a railway magazine, a suggestion was made and clearly looked at, because the railway company at the time, which I think back in those days would have still been British Rail, said, yeah, they've got the grunt to get up a ramp into Queen Street. We can run pacers at street level, put side plates on the wheels, and they can just run down the street, just like a tram. Coming soon to your high street, a pacer. You'll probably not be surprised to know that suggestion wasn't taken up. And in fact, ironically, they've now decided not to take the embankment down, and they will run the Class 398 tram trains down here instead. Oh, and before we completely diss the idea of a pacer or a diesel-powered tram, well, it happens in other countries, the United States. There's certainly diesel-powered tram and diesel-powered train running down the middle of the street, so may not be that much of a silly idea. However, one credible idea that was taken up was the Ultra PRT, or Personal Rapid Transit. So the Ultra PRT is a pod, and the idea is that you would have a pod station, you would swipe your card, tap where you wanted to go to, the pod would pull up or would be there when it would open and engage, and you would head on up to your destination. It runs on a concrete track. It integrates with lots of others. It's all computer controlled and it all works very, very well. How do I know? Well, they run them still today at Heathrow Airport. That's the pod cars that shuttle between the car parks and Terminal 5. I know a number of people who will just get to Terminal 5 and go for a ride on them, believe it or not. And the idea was tested down here in Cardiff Bay. Maps, we can see this figure of 8 test track, which is down right on the foreshore in the bay. It was there for some number of years, and they tested all sorts of different configurations and all sorts of different pods on there. However, recently, sadly, it was broken up. So why wouldn't that have worked? Well, the problem was interoperability, which is another word I can't say. The idea is you get on a pod and then you go somewhere, but then you've got to change to get on a train. Just filmed a Sprinter going past. That thing's on its way to Pontypridd. And the tram trains will go up to Aberdare, to Merthyr, up to the Dare Valley, and the Merthyr Valleys, and up to Treherbert. With no changing, you'll just get on one and get off the other end. And so the idea is that, having to get one mode of transport and get another, well, you may as well just put on a bus. The other issue was the track itself. Now, you're not building a monorail, but, well, it's as good as. It is a concrete single track that takes this pod along. And I think there would have been some issues in trying to get it through certain gaps. But more to the point, having a modern concrete structure up in the air next to someone like City Hall or a museum, just don't think it would work. And so eventually the idea was canned. In the end, it was the Welsh Government awarding the franchise to Keelios Amy, which came up with the concept of the tram train down into the bay. And the Welsh Government liked it particularly because it would allow extensions, not just up at the ends of the line in places like Herwine, but also down into the bay across, as I mentioned before. Rather nice to see they've got the local schools involved. Local primary school did all these. Some of the transport ideas for down the bay. Particularly like that one there. Looks very much like a tram. So that's why Butetown Station's coming about. That's why they haven't built this station here. And that's a little bit of the history of the line. But what is there to see if you do come down and visit Butetown Station when it opens? So what else can we see around here? Well, where I'm standing here is where West Bute Dock used to be. It was filled in, as I say, in the 1960s. If we look at this photograph here, we can see there's a canal coming in here. There's what's looking like another one here, another one here. So let me explain. This is the West Junction Canal, and it links to the Glamorganshire Canal with West Bute Dock. And that one had boats on it. This one was the dock feeder. Now that's the same dock feeder that ran from West Bute Dock through the centre of Cardiff, and today's been opened up in the centre of Cardiff. Worth a look because A, it's very pretty, and B, there's a Japanese souffle pancake house right alongside. Recommended. And then this one here was the Junction Canal, which linked East Bute Dock with West Bute Dock. Now I hope you got all that because there'll be a test on it later. But where I'm standing was West Bute Dock, and as a bit of a memorial towards it, there's this big lump of stuff behind me. Let me turn the camera around. Well, actually, this is a lock gate plunger, which came off one of the gates of one of the docks, one of the locks that entered in, and the actual rest of the dock completely filled in, built upon. You wouldn't know that there was anything here. And behind me, these lovely buildings here used to be potato warehouses. So there's no real relics of the canal as such. This would have been its path, and it is literally a path. But there is this bridge, and I've always looked at this bridge before I did some research on it. I thought to myself, this bridge makes no sense. Why does it make no sense? We're coming back onto Hemingway Avenue, which is the big dual carriageway that goes down towards the bay. And if I just get out the gates, towards the gates here, you can see what I'm talking about. Well used bridge, by the way. Lots of bikes down here. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. Up here is a road bridge. Okay, so why is there another one here? Well, the answer is this was the canal. And that is the canal which I pointed out on the photograph here, and this is the bridge here. And slight postscript, funding's been made for a link from here up to Cardiff Central through what we call Callahan Square, the new square up this way. And it's possible the trams may come off this side and go underneath this bridge heading up towards Cardiff, which would be quite ironic to have a situation where you've gone from canal to cycle path to tramway in its lifetime. So from the canal bridge there, railway bridge here, we're going to take a wander just along here a bit. Now I mentioned that there was the dock feeder that came in to the top of the docks. So obviously when they closed the dock and they filled it in, that dock feeder had to go somewhere. And what we're going to do is find out where it is, and it's literally just up here. I'm going to wander up and see all these cars, where these traffic lights are, a bit of ivy hedge, speed it up a bit. And here we are, the dock feeder coming down from centre of Cardiff Bay. I'm going to quick wander down here and show you what's down here. So back in the day, the point at which the dock start and the dock feeder ended would have been here in where this little bridge is. I featured this previously, and the number of people who have said how they used to walk across here. I don't want to do that now. They used to walk across here to cross over the entrance of the dock, and all this would have been dock. By the way, where I was before, standing alongside the big dock plunger, gate plunger, is over there. All this would have been new. So when they filled the dock in, they extended the dock feeder down and they linked it up with the junction canal. And it's fair to say they made a very nice job of it. We go around here past some sluice gates, and the first thing we see is a lovely old dressed stone bridge, which dates from the 1850s. So we are now what is today the dock feeder on what was the junction canal. And it's fair to say it's lovely. A couple of old bridges. I've done a video about this if you want to see more, the south of the river canal video. But this is water heading into what was East Butte Dock, today Atlantic Wharf. A bit further down you can see the remnants of an old lock gate and what have you. But a little bit of peace and quiet, a little bit of solitude alongside the water down here in Cardiff Bay. There is loads more you can see down here in Cardiff Bay. This was the entrance to West Butte Dock that I've talked so much about. And you can actually see the lock gates where they were, the edges of the lock and the metal brackets for the gates. And this amazing building here was the headquarters of the Cardiff Railway Company, and you can wander in there. It's now an exhibition, part of the Senate, which is behind it. So there's certainly quite a bit to see. So come down. So whenever this station opens, I hope if you do come down, I will hopefully be here sometime during the morning or the day of the opening. So please say hello. It'd be nice to meet some of you face to face. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. It's been a bit of a potted history. It is freezing cold. My hand is getting very cold because I've got gloves off. I'm going to go and find some coffee. So talking of which, thank you to everybody who supports me on my Ko-fi page. It is really very much appreciated. And for everyone else, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. And I'm going to turn the camera around because I think there might be a train on its way down. Until next time.